Listen, I was no wimpy kid, so this diary ain't about me. I'm telling you that right now. Seriously, a diary of a wimpy kid. So Jess, my esteemed producer, comes to me one day and says, "You got to talk to this guy. He wrote these books. There's a whole movie. His store in Plainville is unbelievable." I'm like, "Okay." And there he is. There it is. Diary of a Wimpy Kid. Welcome into my state of mind. I am Dan Yorke. I am not in that car, and I'm not that person. I'm behind the scenes here, and eventually I'll come. Jess will come in. Here we go. And here's Jeff, who wrote Diary of a Wimpy Kid. No rundown tonight. It's what we call our evergreen broadcast. You might see this show on a number of occasions over the course of the summertime and the wintertime. And it's fun because I get to stretch out and just kind of shoot the stuff. Welcome to the show, Jeff.
Thanks for having me.
Were you a wimpy kid?
I was. Yeah, can't you tell?
Oh, no. Yeah, what does that mean?
You know, when my father used to drop me off at swim team every night, I would tell the coach in the first few minutes, I say, I need to use the bathroom. And the coach would say, okay, and figuring I'd be in there for a minute, I'd go in there and hide for the whole practice, in my Speedo, and it would get so cold in the bathroom that I'd have to wrap myself in toilet paper. So those were...
Have you been in therapy for this?
I do it all through my books.
Hey, you know what? Don't feel bad about it. My daughter will kill me, but she ended up being a pretty good swimmer in her day until she had an injury. Right, Steph? Steph, our intern, used to swim with her. But I remember when she was 9 and they were moving her from the 25-yard swim to the 50-yard swim, she freaked out and ran into the bathroom. Unlike male to male, it's male to the coach is saying, "Don't worry, I'll take care of it. He's a guy too." Right. Now, someone please get in there and get her out of there. So I can say that my daughter was a wimpy kid.
There we go. I think we all were in a way.
It's a little bit of a combination of self-actualization and humility and all those things, and your efforts to write notes over 6 years to write the book and the series, Diary of a Wimpy Kid?
Well, at first I thought of the word wimpy as sort of a physical designation. I wanted to have a kid that I knew was less than you. So, you take this character and feel better about yourself from reading about him. But I think the word has changed a little bit. I think kids aren't bothered by it at all. And we've seen over the past 20, 30 years how the word nerd has become an empowering word, where it used to be the outcasts were the nerds, and now nerds are running the world.
Nerds, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
You're right about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I heard my 12-year-old recently say, "Well, I'm a nerd," and I was just surprised. First of all, I don't think he is. He plays on the basketball team and soccer team and things like that. But the fact that he self-identified like that, I think is a change that is something that's really different, unique to this generation.
Well, this is this is going to be a great conversation with you tonight. We'll get into that a little bit. But before we get into the middle of the sandwich here, let's talk about how you put the menu together. You once upon a time decided that you were going to write this book, right?
Right.
Having done what prior? What were you doing?
I was a criminal justice major who wanted to be a newspaper cartoonist, and I was a computer programmer at the time when I came up with this idea that if I couldn't get my comics into newspapers, that I might be able to sneak them into books. So in 1998, I came up with this idea for this character, Greg Heffley, who's a star of a book called Diary of a Wimpy Kid, and I worked on it for 8 years before I showed it to anyone, and then I put it online for a while. And then I found a publisher, and I was lucky enough to find somebody who liked what I was doing.
And the rest is history.
Yes, it's been a crazy ride. I never thought I'd be on this ride. I've met 3 U.S. presidents. I've traveled the world. I've met all sorts of actors and comedians and musicians, and so it's an awful lot of fun, and I don't want it to end.
What's it like when the whole thing is coming to life? I mean, all that time in writing, all that time in wondering if your idea will ever actually finish, never mind be received, and then all of a sudden these things start to happen over what, a couple year period of time that the thing explodes, and then there's movies being made about the book series, and what was that ride like? I mean, you're still on it, but what? Tell me.
I think that what you go through psychologically is first you're appreciative, right? And then the next thing you feel is like, well, I don't want to let go of this. I don't want it to end. And I often think of my career as being similar to a professional athlete's, which is that you get to that point, but then you start to feel very anxious about the ride ending, and I think that's where I am right now. Luckily, I'm in a position where I might be able to keep writing, you know, and you know, my athletic skills won't diminish, if you will. But I'm just very grateful for everything that's happened. I feel like I'm on the Truman Show.
Was it a high every time there was new notoriety, and all of a sudden the numbers and the readership and the hits and all that kind of stuff start to grow, and then the movie thing came together? We'll talk about the movie thing, but
Sure.
it must be an adrenaline rush to say, holy cow, this thing I was thinking is now a marketable, exploding product.
It's honestly too strange to contemplate in a way, which is good. It makes for a healthy experience because I live in a little town called Plainville, and
Right.
and you know, I'm no big shakes there. But yesterday, for example, I found out that the Pope was given the first copy of my Latin translated Diary of a Wimpy Kid, and you know, he had an audience with the translator, and he got the first copy. And I was like, this is
Be a mind blower.
so strange. It's just too
Are you
strange. I am Catholic, actually. Yes.
Wow.
I am. Yeah.
That
so
adds to the excitement.
it does. It does. And I think of my character as being Catholic too. So it's kind of funny that it ended up in the Pope's hands of all people.
And of course, you know, this whole, you know, underwhelming explanation of your role in Plainville, I think it's probably more high profile than that. You got a wonderful store that we're going to talk about later in the show, which I know you're hepped up on, and you should
Love
be.
it, yeah.
It's a heck of a project. But what happened when you started writing? Talk to me about it. You started writing, and then the movie came along, and how did that whole thing chronologically roll out?
Okay. First, I wrote a book. You know, I wrote a 1,300-page first draft, and then I wrote it for grown-ups, actually. And my editor took it in-house, and the publisher decided that it was really a kid's series. It wasn't one big 1,300-page book for adults. And we published it. It turned into a bestseller. I'd say a modest bestseller. It eventually got to #1, and then I had another book, a sequel, and that's when everything started to really change. I started to get calls from the movie studios, and they have these people that screen books and read them, and they're scouts. And somebody had, you know, read Diary of a Wimpy Kid and thought it was worthy of being made into a movie. And I ended up getting a call from Nina Jacobson, who now is most well known for being the producer of the Hunger Games series. But then she had been the head of Disney's film division. And she wanted to make this into a movie, and it was really scary. It was very high pressure, like you had to decide fast. And then because the studios don't like to wait.
Did you have professional representation to try to work it through?
I did. I was lucky enough to get an agent that really fit me. I went out to Hollywood and met some agents who were glitzy and glamorous, and my agent is glitzy and glamorous in her own way, but she's very special and a very kind and decent person, and so she felt like a really good fit for a guy from Plainville.
So the movie was a hit.
They were. You know, the first one did well. The second one ended up as a #1. The third one was a little bit less. But I certainly can't complain. I mean, they're odd movies because they're very anachronistic. They've got a cast of a family of live actors. You know, that's actually very rare for a family movie to have people in it these days.
Right. It's all got to be cartoons. It's all got to be computerized, whatever the heck the computerized cartoon thing is today.
Right. So it was very. It was a small movie in a way, a small story. The stakes are small, but I think the story resonates with people. So the underdog and.
So I want to talk to you about your philosophy with this whole thing and why and what the mission is in writing it. We'll do that a little bit later on. When we come back, I want to make sure you see this cool new store that's been in the process to get this. Fascinating. So this was the building that used to be there in Plainville. We're talking about an unlikely story, the name of a brand new business. Or how long has it been, Jeff?
Just about 10 days. Yeah.
That's it. Like you're up and running right now.
Yeah, we are up and running.
That's
We're a new business. Yeah.
That was the location.
Yes.
What was that building?
That building had been there since 1856, and it was called many different things, but eventually it was called Falk's Market, which we could see right there. And it was really the nerve center of the town.
What year is that? 1990-ish?
Yeah.
When it was 80?
80s, 90s.
80s? Okay.
Yeah. But that
Obviously a local parade in Plainville.
Yep, that was
great
Falk's
metropolis
Market.
of.
That's right. That was Falk's Market in its heyday. And it had been there for quite a while, and it was hard for people to let go of that building because it held so many special memories for for the people in town, and from their childhood. So the building became an eyesore because it was abandoned, and then I think people had really mixed feelings about it because it still stood for something in the past,
right.
But it was clear that it wasn't part of the future.
Let it go, let it go.
I think so.
You gotta let it go. Oh, Frozen. See, I'm all over it.
Topical.
But now you did some ribbon cutting, and you had a big thing. We have a little video of that, and I think we do.
There we go.
Is it all the local dudes?
Yeah, we had the poobahs from around the Chamber of Commerce.
That's the store now.
We've got a bookstore in Plainville. One of two, actually.
That's gorgeous. I love the hardwood.
Yeah, it's really nice.
So is that your design?
I worked with an architect, and we had a team of people, but this was a look we wanted. We wanted to feel comfortable, and we wanted to kind of create the ideal feeling that a bookstore should give you.
Well, just the entrepreneurial risk of even creating a bookstore, I think, is fascinating. I know when I tell my daughter about it, if she doesn't know it already, I mean, she's a voracious reader, right? Really? And misses, every time a bookstore goes down, it's like, oh my God, it feels like a little bit, for people who like to read, it feels like their gut's been ripped out a little bit. So this is a very risky investment.
Yeah,
unless you can make it so novel that it won't be.
Right. Yeah, I think of the building itself as an endowment to the town. It's something that's really a gift to the town because it changes the way that you see our town because it's right in the dead center and it has a big word Plainville on the side of it. But I think of the business as something that needs to run like a business. The people who were advising us said, boy, if you have a bookstore here in a town of 8,000, it really needs to be a destination. And I think the advice I was being given at that time was that I needed to make it a destination around me and my brand. And I was like, that's never going to work. People aren't going to flock to Plainville because of a wimpy kid.
Sure. So
we made the bookstore itself so nice and novel that I think that will become the destination part of it. And when people come in, they seem to really love it.
And you came up with the name An Unlikely Story for the store.
Yeah. I think this whole thing's been an unlikely story. I think that before this was a bookstore, this location was a tea room and a barber shop and a taxi stand. It had actually been dragged across the street by a team of oxen, and now it's this bookstore, owned by a guy who writes comics about a middle school weakling. So it's had a lot of different identities, and this is just the next identity for the location.
I am guessing that the people of Plainville are now thrilled with this. I mean, talk about unlikely investment in a town. Every community right now is struggling with that great idea, or where is it, and trying to avoid the homogenization of one community against another with box this and box that. So when you come in with this, you must absolutely have romanced the entire community.
Well,
I think you should have.
Right. People do seem
People
to be
in Plainville
grateful.
should feel romanced as far as I'm concerned.
I like that. I think, it's an interesting experiment, if nothing else. It's, what happens when you take a town that is sort of frozen in time and you invest in it. I don't know what's going to happen. I really don't know what's going to happen.
The only investment right now is slots.
Right. Well, we've got those on the other side.
Down at Plain Ridge.
Hey, we'll take it all. We'll take it all in Plainville.
Feedback so far? You've been open now, what, a week and a half-ish?
Yeah, about a week and a half. People love it, yeah.
But that's based on our program, our recording schedule. So you're seeing this a little bit later, and we'll see it over the course of the year.
That's right.
Sales brisk?
Yes.
Visits brisk?
Yeah, so far, we've got a budget in mind, and we're trying to hit that. But people seem to be coming in every day. It's busy at all times.
What is the now new nature and business model and pro forma for running a bookstore look like?
Yeah, well, I think that the margins are low, so you have to really understand that going in. You're looking at somewhere between a 2 to 5% margin, which is not.
That's it. Huh?
It's not attractive.
You buy it for X, you charge 2 to 5% more. That's it.
It doesn't quite work that way, but that's about
overhead,
how we end up.
The whole factor.
Yeah, exactly. But that's that's okay. What was really interesting is when we opened the door, is that all of a sudden we saw foot traffic coming from all over Plainville. In fact, there's a traffic jam, a half a mile in every direction, and it was just crazy. We never saw that coming, that people would want to walk. And that alone, it said a few things to me. It said something about community and the need to have something in the center of your town. And Massachusetts is really unique in that way. We really do have town centers. Right. But it was also a statement that people just wanted to have a bookstore, is that there's a hunger for just the idea of a bookstore, and I think it's very validating.
Will we be going backwards a little bit with all the technology and everything is available on my iPad? Like, it's so funny. Recently took a trip to Europe, and with long flights, I probably grabbed the two biggest, thickest books I could have grabbed that I had not yet read, and they were heavy in my bag. Sure. But the process of actually being on a plane and reading, and not being on this stupid thing. And my daughter is reading from one of these, and my wife's got the magazines. But I have a traditional heavy book, and I was relishing it. Are we moving back, or the younger generation, the millennials and the younger, will they move back to this, you think, ever?
That's a great question. I think there's a,
For your sake,
I think there is a saturation point. I think sort of where we are in our history is that we're like kids who have been given the chance to have chocolate cake for breakfast. It's like, eventually, at first you're like, I love having chocolate cake for breakfast. But after a few days, you're like, actually this doesn't feel so good. And I think that we're going to find a balance. I think there's going to be, digital is going to win. But I think that even with e-readers, we've seen a saturation point and a resurgence of independent bookstores.
Do you have a digital aspect to what you've got in the store?
We don't really. I'm not sure if we sell anything digital, and I'm really fine with that, because I think once you start to try to emphasize e-readers and try to play in those fields, then you compromise yourself.
Do you plan on more stores, or is this the beginning of the end project for you on this kind of level?
I would love to build more buildings. I found that I have a real taste for that. And I love to sort of change the landscape. But so often we find that we live in the world that was built for us. We live in the world that was handed down to us. And every so often in history, there are these moments where the economic forces align and people can build. And I feel very lucky to be in a position where I have been able to build one building, and I'd like to do more in the future.
Fascinating. Man, don't you just get energized by the entrepreneurial energy? It's huge. When we come back, I want to talk a little bit more about, the Wimpy Kid and where it all sits in today's world. Stay with us. So, I don't know if that's a Wimpy Kid. I know that's not a Wimpy Kid. Diary of a Wimpy Kid, the whole book series, the movies, and the creator, Jeff Kinney, is a local guy here in Plainville, and he's put his money where his entrepreneurial thoughts are and built this store, an unlikely story on South Street, which is right in the center of town, and you should go there. I know I'm going to go there simply because I love entrepreneurial spirit and the like. Dude, you must be loaded. Are you loaded? I mean, for what's happened, you get straight questions.
Not after this.
Yeah, you don't have to show me. You don't have to show me your financial statement, but I mean, you go from a guy that had a dream. You write this book that's serious, so you're good, right?
Yes, I'm good. I'm very, very, very fortunate, yes.
And so you've taken, this store, a couple more store questions, is a gift or a business investment or both?
It's both. I think it's a gift. It's an attempt to change a town and the way a town feels about itself. And that's the goal. That's what's behind it.
That's awesome. So speaking of how you feel about yourself, I mean, isn't that kind of the theme all the way along? I mean, this Wimpy Kid concept, it seems like you have a very introspective and outrospective thing going on in terms of people, relationships with others, giving, feeling good, actualization. It seems to all be synergistic, if I'm following this thing.
Yeah, I've had a lot of interesting experiences with Diary of a Wimpy Kid, but I think that this bookstore is it's the thing that lights me up the most, because it's something that's very real. It's like taking the success of Diary of a Wimpy Kid and putting it into action, and that's very meaningful to me.
Tell me about the Wimpy Kid concept for a couple of minutes here before we roll out. There's a lot of bullying conversation in America today. It seems to me, I never thought I'd get to the age where I say, kids today, right? Mm-hmm. But it's happened. Kids today seem to be really tough on each other.
Yeah.
Their interpersonal skills seem to be lacking. Everything is in a machine. getting to look at you and and shake your hand.
Right.
If you train your kid to look you in the eye and shake your hand, they're probably light years ahead of the next one.
Yeah, yeah.
So what's happening, and where's your storytelling fit into that thing that's out there?
Well, Greg himself is actually, he's a kid who's addicted to video games, and he's a lot like I was as a kid, and so, but it is true, is that today's kids, they have screens everywhere. They're platform agnostic. They can go from one thing to another. And by the way, I have a full-time job as a game developer. I work for a site called Pop Tropica, so I develop them myself, story-based.
So you're still working for a living?
Yeah, I still have a regular job.
Wow.
So it's,
I'd be playing golf, man. That's me.
You'd be bored within a few days.
No.
No.
Anyway.
But I think that there's an opportunity, to differentiate your kids from other kids and make them more successful just by turning off the screen and to focus on talking around the dinner table and things like that.
Do you think about how kids get along with each other? When you wrote all of this?
I did, and it's changed a lot. I've tried to make my books not reference technology very much, but even in the time that I've been writing them, technology's changed so much that my first books in the series now actually look antiquated. And so it's a real challenge to try to stay relevant.
Are kids better, same than they used to be? Worse?
I think that
it's tough to make the generalizations.
Kids are better informed. I think they're more protected in school. I think bullying was a huge problem when I was growing up. It seems like adults are much more aware of that. But the arena we haven't stepped into yet as parents is the cyberbullying and seeing hurtful things being written, and I worry for my kids.
Yeah, I do too. But at some point, I think this generation of parents has got to admit that we're way over managing them.
Oh yeah, and I'm guilty as charged.
Way over managing. Yeah. Where are you going? What are you doing? What are you doing? Call me here. Text me here. Blah blah. I was thinking about it the other day. I don't know why I was thinking about it, but I went to college and never came back.
Right.
So I didn't.
That's rare.
I did come back, but it was once a month. Hey, I'm okay. And now it's
yeah.
What's the matter with us?
I'm actually writing a book right now. My 10th book is called Old School. It's about this very thing, about kids being overprogrammed.
Really?
Yeah, and so I'm drawing a lot of humor from that.
Well, when you finish it, come see us.
I will do that.
Again, I want to point to, where am I, Jess? I want to point to the store. Can we show a picture again, or just a graphic? Because we do this a lot on this show. When new businesses pop up and they're unique and they're special, we want to give them a little bump, simply because it's good for everybody. It's a gorgeous facility.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
I appreciate that.
And there's the data. Unlikely Story Time, Fridays at 10:30 every week.
Yes.
Are you telling the stories?
Maybe someday I will.
Who does?
A woman named Sarah. She's lovely.
Sarah, the storyteller.
Right.
Fridays at 10:30. Congratulations on everything you've done.
Thank you very much.
And I don't live in Plainville, but if I did, I'd be thanking you for the investment.
I appreciate it.
These guys in economic development that all our taxpayer dollars go to are always trying to figure out something to do. You just went ahead and did it.
There we go. Thanks.
All right. Diary of a Wimpy Kid, and now the unlikely story. One more thing when we come back. I love that story, not only of his success, Mr. Kinney's success, but in the investment in this store. If you've got a story that you think needs to be told here on Dan Yorke State of Mind, contact us through the Your State of Mind phone number, 228-1886. You can email me at stateofmind@myeritv.com. You can Facebook post, you can tweet, you can do all of that. Great stuff. You have a great night. Thanks for watching.